All right, I'm going to go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the City Council for May 2nd, 2022. The first order of business is Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember Gardner will be leading us in that.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this evening and the beautiful weather that we've had and the changing of the seasons, Lord, and we're just thankful for the beautiful town of Maumelle that we can live in, Father. We're so thankful for those that serve our city day in and day out and keep us safe and take care of us when we need it, especially, Lord. We just ask for safety for all those that serve our city, Lord. Father, tonight we ask for wisdom in all the things that we do, and we're thankful that we can serve the community in this way. We just ask that we do the things that are best for the city and its citizens, and that we will do it to the best of our ability. Thank you for all the blessings that you give us day in and day out, and it's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Gardner. The next order of business is special guests and announcements. First up, we have Jennifer Long with Children's Protection Center, or other folks as well.
We have an entourage.
A whole entourage? Great, well, come on down.
We're her handlers.
Okay, great.
Hardly. I'm theirs. No. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, or giving us the opportunity to come and talk to you a little bit about River City's Dragon Boat Festival. Hopefully, as members of the City Council, that you know about that event and what comes to Maumelle each year in the summer in June. And we have been hosting this event in Maumelle since 2015. And with me today are Mark Bryant, who is our Director of Clinical Services, and Terry Todd, who's our Director of Marketing and Development. Children's Protection Center serves children who have been involved in child abuse, an open child abuse allegation. So we work with all of the local folks, all the local agencies in Pulaski County who are working with children on a day-to-day basis involving very traumatic things. And our center is a space for local law enforcement, DCFS, state police, all of the different agencies that respond to this kind of abuse. We are a nonprofit agency, and a lot of what we do depends significantly on fundraising. And we work really closely with Maumelle Police Department as well. But that fundraising is incredibly important to the services that we provide to kids, and that includes forensic interviews, it includes advocacy, mental health services, medical exams, prevention and education to our community, lots of things. And it costs a lot of money, and we charge our families nothing to be able to provide that. Last year, we served almost 1,000 children, and this year we know we're going to be serving more than that. We're actually going to be building another location in North Pulaski County to be able to serve those kids there. So that fundraising piece is incredibly important to the work we do. And Dragon Boat is really, really a big deal to everything that we're able to do in Pulaski County. We started the event in 2013, and we did it in North Little Rock. And 2 years later, we came to our senses and moved it to Maumelle. And I had an opportunity to come and talk to the City Council at that time about this event. And it was weird. It was something that was like bizarre, this Dragon Boat Festival where we bring these boats and put them on Lake Willisteen. And the City Council was really supportive at the time and didn't even bat an eye when I came and spoke to you guys about it at all. And Philip Rayburn with Parks and Rec has been fantastic in helping us through this process too. So I just want to thank you guys for supporting that and let you know how much that has meant to the services that we provide in Pulaski County. And we are coming back this year again on June 10th and 11th. And this year too, the Maumelle government, City of Maumelle government, as well as the City of Maumelle businesses have supported us in ways they have not before. So every year we see more and more support growing from us. And Mark's a resident of Maumelle as well. Some of our staff are, and of course we serve a lot of children from this area. So it's just really, really important that we have. We're really thankful that we have the support from you guys and from the community. I think we have a video, so those of you that have never attended at Lake Willisteen, you can kind of see a taste of it. I do want to say this is a volunteer-led video that I'm about to show you, but it gives you an understanding of what we're doing out there. These are many different events that have been kind of conglomerated into one video, too. It's a little over a minute, so if we can, Ms. Timmons, show that. Thank you. That's audacious.
from 2018.
June 10th and 11th, 10th and 11th. So I'll tell you, the first time that we had this in Maumelle, we had 30 teams that participated. And at our highest level of participation, we've had 44 teams. And those teams constitute 20 people in a boat, and which is crazy, right? And actually it's 22 because you have a drummer and a steers person. But we will have businesses that commit their teams. We have community organizations, groups of friends that create teams to be able to come out and support CPC. And so that's what you saw in the field there out in front of the stage, are these teams that come out and they set up for 2 days, they have a good time, they support CPC, and they're out there to race, but really to raise money for the work that we do. We have a lot of Maumelle companies that are a part of this, but a lot of companies too from Conway, Mayflower, Little Rock, North Little Rock, Sherwood, even up into Jacksonville as well. So we're able to bring folks from our the larger community into Maumelle to see what Maumelle has to offer. And just really appreciate your support over the years and hope that you will share this information too and let people know that we're looking for teams this year. What, Terry, we have 36 teams right now confirmed for our June 10th and 11th event, but we know we're going to be hitting over 40 this year. So thank you guys so much. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take those, but just appreciate your support over the years.
How many years have you done it?
We have done it since 2013. We did take a break during COVID, 1 year, and we started back up last year. So that would have been our 9th year last year. So this will be our 10th year to do that. Now, we started in Maumelle in 2015, and that was just a crazy story. If you'll give me a few more minutes to tell you about that. We were doing it in North Little Rock at Victory Lake, which is in Burns Park, and not a really great spot for what we were trying to do. I reached out to Philip Rayburn literally like a week before the event started in North Little Rock and just said, hey, come check this out. If you think this could be a possibility in Maumelle, please let me know. He came out, and towards the end of the event, he was like, absolutely, we can do this. I said, okay, how much is it going to cost us, do you think? And he was like, what do you mean? Just come out and do it. We'll be fine. It's not going to cost anything. And he's like, just let us have a team. I said, oh, absolutely have a team, which the Maumelle team has won before. I don't know if you guys have seen that trophy. So, but just how welcoming Maumelle has been to us. We have torn up that park, the grass before because it rains. That time of year it rains. And the Parks and Rec department have been fantastic. All they've asked is like, hey, you cover the cost of the sod. Our crew can come out here and lay it down. They've just been amazing. And that's because they've had the support of the city as well. And so, again, that's just been amazing over the years too.
Great. Well, thank you very much. If y'all haven't had a chance to go out and take a look at it and kind of participate in the festivities, I'd recommend go out there, and you're welcome to bring your family. It's a fun time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I have 2 things I'd like to add.
Yes.
When Jennifer talked about the people that were coming, we also have some people that are coming from Colorado. They heard about the festival and called us and wanted to come. So we've got a group coming from Colorado and a couple of groups coming from Texas. So we are bringing, well, how about that for economic development? But I also wanted to share that your own lovely Courtney Dunn is leading the effort for the City of Maumelle team. So the folks in here, if you'd like to row, contact Courtney. She's
It's not easy, but it's fun. It's going to be the best minute and 10 seconds. No, it only takes you that long, but it's very, very difficult. So.
And it's for a fantastic cause.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Great, thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
Next order of business is approval of the minutes of the April 18th regular meeting. If there's any discussion on that matter, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the minutes. We've got a motion second to adopt the minutes of the April 18th, 2022 council meeting. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, yes?
Yes.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. The next order of business is public comment. I do have some public comment cards, and I'll just go down the list here. Y'all have 3 minutes, and if you could each say your name and address for the record, that'd be great. First up, looks like Gary Childers.
I'm Gary Childers, live at 11 Hickory Lane, Maumelle. And actually, I've got two there, so I was wondering if I could do one and then the other.
Sure, yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to start out with my water sample. This is, when I talk with CAW about their water, they say, well, it's summer and you're going to get fungus and everything else in your water. Well, this is through my filter. And you haven't lived till you've been drinking water and feel this go across your mouth. I'd like to just pass this down for everybody just to take a look at it. It's tubular shaped. Looks kind of like spiral gyro, but it's a little bit bigger than that. We didn't get this before CAW. I know we had a water problem. It was, you know, your water would be tasting kind of fishy. Your bath water would be different colors, you know, brown, green, orange. But I've always had filtered water. I wasn't going to drink that, so. Anyway, that's the CAW water. I don't know if that's an improvement. It's clearer, but when you got things like that in it, and that'll come back in a couple of weeks. And also, I've talked to a lot of other people, and their toilets are getting this black mess in it. And Maumelle Water says, well, that's because your enamel is scratched, and that's when people, even with newer homes, are getting this. So. You know, I think it's a problem, but I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. I don't know if there's anything you can do about it. I'll just wait for my next sample, and I guess I'll take it to the health department to see how bad that is. But you can see it's hard to see. And when you got a glass full of ice, you got a straw down in it, and you suck that up, man, it's nasty. It's sort of like cellophane.
Is that
I don't know what the heck it is.
that a straw in there?
That's not a straw. I thought that was maybe the case. I think what it's done, it grows in the tubing, and then it finally sloughs off into your water. But this is filtered water. I mean, that's kind of unusual to get anything past that filter. It's supposed to. It's in my refrigerator, and I've got one on my faucet as well. But I can leave if you want to just keep that and enjoy it. You may. So I don't know where to go with it from that. I mean, I'm game for suggestions, but I don't think CAW Water cares one way or the other. And my next, if I can go on to the next one.
Yes, sir.
These electrical boxes and Comcast or internet or whatever. I've got a photo. That, I mean, this is just getting crazy. If Maumelle really cares about what it looks like and go up with this stuff is beyond me, but I'll pass these down too. But I do want to show them to you. These electrical boxes, I put little bows on them, try to make them look nicer. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. This is some kind of electrical box, and this is some kind of Comcast box, I guess. That's 14 inches or less than 14 inches between those boxes. Now, how you even get a weed eater in there, I don't know, but there it is. This is my neighbor across the street. This is where these boxes are. It's hard to tell. It's between the vehicles. You can see them right in the middle of the yard. You got a worst case together on hers. How you mow that, how you weed eat that, I don't know. Here's a close-up of her boxes. So, I mean, when you get weeds and stuff growing, But I don't know, does Maumelle just allow anybody and everybody just put up a box wherever they want to, or?
If they have, no, but if it's in the easement, were those new boxes put in, or are those are existing ones, right? They've been there for a while?
Well, the first one was that electrical box, which I didn't like, but I could mow around it and weed eat it. And then in the next few months, they put in this taller one. And I think it's like for Comcast or something. I don't know what the heck that is. Maybe Fidelity or something.
How long has it been there, would you guess, sir?
Oh, it's been there a few months.
Okay.
But, you know, it didn't really bother me until, you know, start getting to where you have to mow it or weed eat it. And I can't get a weed eater in there. I just pass these down. But, I mean, it just bothers me that they can put things like that anywhere they want to and put it so close that there's no way for the homeowner to maintain those without them just being weed infested, grass growing between them. Like I said, I don't know if anybody makes a lawnmower like that, you know, and I don't know if anybody makes a weed eater like that, to tell you the truth. So.
If they did, I wouldn't buy that lawnmower.
Well, I mean, in Maumelle, you might need it. I don't know. But, I don't know, I'm assuming y'all are on top of this, but that may be a false assumption.
Yes, sir.
But, I mean, all you have to do is drive around Maumelle and look, and you'll see it everywhere. It's not just my house and my neighbors, it's everywhere.
Yes, sir. We can take a look at who put those in. I'm not sure if we've had anything out there super recently. Those don't look like the Comcast boxes that a lot of folks are talking about.
I think that may be Fidelity. I'm not really sure. It's,
Gotcha.
I don't know, they don't have a name on them.
Gotcha. We can take a look at those. We have, as I mentioned at the last council meeting, we have updated the way that we go about reviewing these permits. Previously, the permit process was primarily to ensure that the entity had the right to use the rights of way and easements. So they had to have a franchise agreement or some other legal method to do that. And then we used it just to track who was doing work where, basically. The planning department has revamped that process so that we're actually getting a lot more information and then reviewing where those boxes are being placed at. And that has cropped up. That's a new process that we've come through after a lot of the complaints we've been receiving from the Comcast boxes.
Well, now that they're in, is there any way to get them to come back and move them far enough apart where somebody can maintain them?
We'll have to look into that.
Okay. All right, well, that's
And
all
it's something that I think we should be looking at because it is silly that you can't mow or weed eat between things. And
Okay.
I assume we're gonna be looking at that sort of stuff, to the extent that we can on the plans.
Okay, well, I just wanted to
I
have
don't know
my
if the
say and
plans
show
would be
you
that
what was going
specific.
on.
I'm getting a look from Scott that says it doesn't, Scott Grummer says it doesn't look like the plans will be specific enough to that level. Okay.
Well, I think you're gonna need at least 25 inches between these to get a mower between them,
Great.
to accommodate any size mower, so.
I believe Councilmember Mosley had a comment?
Yeah, a real quick question about the water. Did you show that, have you showed that to CAW by any chance?
I had called, CAW about that and my, getting all this black stuff in my toilet, and they just said it's seasonal, and they were gonna get that, but I mean, again, this is through a filter that I'm getting this coming into.
I don't know how that makes it through a filter, but,
Well,
they'd probably be interested in looking at that. They've got a treatment plant over off of Pleasant Valley Drive. Might call them up and drive it over there and just show it to them, see what they say.
Well, I've got another, call into their lab. I've got a
Yeah,
direct number to their lab.
That's where their lab is.
You know, couple of
Right.
weeks I'll have another jar, so I'll just bring that to them.
All right, thank you.
Like I said, you can have that one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Tricia Morin. Hopefully I pronounced that properly. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Tricia Morton, I'm from Osage area.
What was the address?
Osage area.
So.
It's on the piece of paper if you need my address.
Yeah, so our ordinances require that the name and address be read for public comments.
All right, 25 Sagamore Court.
Thank you. I think that dates back to when people sent letters to one another. I'm not sure, but thank you. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Like many others, I'm concerned about crime in Maumelle. Today, I'll specifically highlight the rash of car break-ins. Examining the crime stats that the Maumelle Police Department posted on their Facebook page on April 21st, in 2020, 88 personal property crimes were reported. In 2021, there were 121 reports, which is a 37% increase. As of 4+ months into this year, the police have reported 85 reports. If this trend continues, extrapolating that number, based on a daily average, we could end up with 279 personal property crime reports for 2022. That would be more than double compared to last year. Keep in mind that the statistics don't include people who don't report. And to be fair, population growth must be taken into account. According to neighborhoodscout.com, Maumelle is growing at a rate of 0.54% annually. So we don't want criminals to think of Maumelle as a lackadaisical community that's an easy target. Many people live in Maumelle while working in Little Rock because Maumelle is a beautiful, safe community. We want to keep it that way. We want to maintain our designation as one of the safest cities in Arkansas. Along the lines of broken window theory, if we don't squash small crimes like car break-ins, storage unit break-ins, vandalism, etc., those stepping stones will encourage bigger crimes in our community. It would be great if the police could post a short video on their Facebook page about what to do to prevent car break-ins, what to do if you've been a victim of one, and what to do if you see one. Citizens also want to know what to do when we see people carrying merchandise out of a store without paying. Of course, we don't want citizens tackling people in parking lots, so tell us what we, as individuals and as a collective, what we can do to help. Another suggestion for the police is to have an event at Willistine where citizens can learn about how to prevent crime and to hear what the police are doing to fight crime. The police and the public in general have done a pretty good job of telling folks to, number one, lock their cars, number two, don't leave valuables in their cars while walking at Willistine or in driveways overnight. Or at least stow your purse in your trunk prior to arriving at Willistine so as not to advertise to onlookers. When we see a crime, we should all try to report the suspect's description of the police: tall, slender male, hoodie, red shoes, driving this car of this color and make, model, and try to get the license plate info. For citizens listening, many subdivisions have a communication group through Facebook or other platforms to share about crime and to enable neighbors to help one another. If your subdivision doesn't have one, start one. Communication is key to building a community. That being said, if a crime is committed, call the police. Don't stop at a social media post. Maumelle is a tight-knit community that wants to be proactive. Our community is fortunate enough to have engaged citizens who want to help. We are grateful to have strong leadership and an engaged police force. In summary, we need a more proactive communication from police about how citizens can help and how Maumelle police are fighting crime. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Sam Williams. If you could please state your name and address for the record, sir.
I'm Sam Williams. My address is number 2 Chico Drive. I just wanted to we have all heard here recently some people talking about our city, our police department, our government, and the crime rate. And I just wanted to take a minute of y'all's time, if I may, to share my experience with y'all. I think it's been my experience that we have a mayor that is incredibly public safety minded. We have a group of council persons who consider public safety a very much a priority. And we have a police department that I think is second to none. I think we have a police department that is incredibly engaged. I think that they take their job incredibly seriously, and I think that is a reflection of the police chief and his staff. I don't know of a finer group of people, and I've worked around most of them. I don't know of a group that's more conscientious and that accepts the responsibility of what they are charged with doing more or better than the Maumelle Police Department. And I think sometimes when we are trying to figure out what's wrong, we forget what's right. And the fact that you guys, you mayor, and this police department, and this police chief and his staff are all willing and desire to work with the community to make this and keep this one of the safest communities in the South, not just Arkansas. Are there going to be crimes? You bet. Are bad things going to happen? You bet. And let me leave you with quoting that great philosopher Bruce Springsteen when he was asked why he did what he did. He said, "Judge, there's a meanness in this world." And I just want to leave y'all that the fact of the matter is there's a meanness in this world. And thank God that you have members of the Maumelle Police Department who are willing to step in between us and them and protect us and keep us safe. And I don't think we should ever lose sight of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief. That is the last public comment card that I had. If the council would like, over the weekend, I'd communicated with Chief Pickard. We knew that there was a lot of concern about some recent crimes that had occurred. I had asked him to look at some numbers, to put together some stuff, to give y'all a presentation. He's certainly not the department report. If the council would like, it would only take a couple minutes, and I think it's timely. Is there any objection to that? Chief?
Good evening. Let me try to get this computer fired up again.
Are you on HDMI or?
HDMI. I haven't plugged it in now. There we go. So, as the mayor stated, we were in contact over the weekend, and I've got some information that I could share, and also I would like to thank Ms. Morin, is that correct? For the suggestions that she put out tonight. Those will all be taken, and we'll look over this video again tomorrow with my, with our public information officer so that we can get more information out to the public. Looking at trends, this is a 10-year comparison. Typically, we don't reach that far back, but just to show the citizens how the crime rate ebbs and flows, we have experienced an extremely light year. Right here, I'm just looking at thefts, and the top line is theft from vehicles, and you can see that in 2015 we had a spike of 172 vehicles reported broken into, and then since that time it has gone down and then spiked back up for a little bit, and we are aware of this. We continue our patrols. We have actually intercepted or broken up instances where people were breaking into cars, and we were able to stop that event. Unfortunately, in some of those, we were unable to catch the suspect, being on foot and trying to get other officers into the area. They can vanish pretty quickly. One thing that in 2021, we captured or arrested 9 individuals linked with vehicle break-ins. Most of those, well, 7 out of the 9 lived outside the city of Maumelle. So what we had was 2 from North Little Rock, 2 from Maumelle, 2 from Little Rock, 1 from Warren, 1 from Cabot, 1 from Sherwood. So this is not a Maumelle specific crime. This is happening all over central Arkansas. And we do need to remind folks to make sure that their vehicles are locked and make sure that their possessions are hidden, as Ms. Moran hit on in hers. Looking at just January through April, normally I would do the first quarter of the year, but this time I went ahead and pushed it out since we did have some vehicles broken into at Willistine over the weekend, to let you know that we see a slight spike here from vehicle thefts, but we're also seeing a drop in vehicle theft. Thefts from vehicle in the yellow line, and vehicle thefts actually slightly a dip there, where it tends to stay steady. Again, we've not had anybody have a vehicle hotwired in Maumelle. These are either vehicles with the key left in them by accident. People make mistakes, we understand that, or in the vehicle next to them, which happens to be unlocked. Willistine, in 2020, we've had 5 vehicles broken into at Lake Willistine. As you can see, there is no pattern. We had 2 in January and 2 in April, and all on different days. But we do have patrols that are assigned to go into Lake Willistine, checking on things. Same with the ballparks. We know with tournament season and baseball season kicking up that we assign officers down there, and they trade out at the park while they're on duty. So we are keeping an eye on the trend of vehicle break-ins. We're aware of it, and we are doing everything in our power to prevent that. Last year we had 4 vehicles broken into that were reported at Willistine. Again, this time I think only 3 of the vehicles had their windows broken. Again, these are typically crimes of opportunity. They see something of value out, or they see somebody putting something of value up, and that's when they'll typically break the window. We don't see that when the cars are broken into on the street or in the driveways. That we have groups and we have video evidence of people going around checking door handles. So again, we'll try to put out some videos to help out. And this statistic says it all. Maumelle experiences a significant crime against property, but not to the extent, this matches almost the countrywide, but Maumelle has a smaller portion of this. Let me try to explain that. We don't have near the number, so if we have 2 cars broken into in Willistine or anywhere, that adds to what we have, so it looks like a larger jump and it looks like a spike when in fact it's 2 cars. We have such small numbers that it reflects in a percentage that is much higher, and that's what I was going to present.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, for the
Hang on.
thefts from cars. Does that occur, is there a pattern like closer to the exits of the city or certain areas
No,
of
sir.
town or anything like that?
There is no pattern that we can discern.
Okay.
They can hit an apartment complex one night and come and hit a different neighborhood on the other side of town. It's random and it's all over the city. In 2021, we identified that we had more vehicle break-ins on a Tuesday. This year, it's spread out almost evenly. We'll have a handful of cars hit one night and then move on. And at times we have identified, and we are working with other agencies, that there are groups that travel from city to city and are known to us that we are working on identifying.
Good. All right. Is there a certain time of day that the Lake Willistine tends to happen, or is it?
It's more of 3 to 5 o'clock.
Really?
But again, it's random days,
Yeah,
as I showed on here.
Usually when people are there, that's interesting.
Well, it's just like at the ballparks, when there's more vehicles present, then that's when they break into it, because they know there's better opportunity for getting what they want or something of value.
All right, thank you.
Chief, part of Councilmember Mosley's question was about a pattern. You mentioned, I think you said something like, well, it's that time of year again.
That's correct. We do see a spike in vehicle break-ins when the warmer months. April tends to spike in almost every year, and it follows all the way through till August. We have the spike then they taper off, and that's why, sometimes we can't extrapolate the numbers as being extremely high, because we see a spike and then they go back down.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Williams?
Chief, can you address the shoplifting issue, the shoplifting question that came up about seeing people walk out of Walgreens or Kroger with goods they didn't pay for?
Yes, ma'am. What I would suggest is that if somebody witnesses that, to contact the police department, dial 911, call us, let us know, give us a description, be a witness. That is the best advice I can give you on any crime. Be a witness for us, and notify the store after you've called the police department. But call the police first.
Chief, you mentioned an interesting statistic about the total number of reported shopliftings in the last decade.
Yes, sir. We've had 200 reports of shoplifting in 10 years.
And it's usually easier for the police to do something if you report it like at that time. And then we find that in my experience as when I was a city attorney and prosecutor, you have some businesses that will report everything and want to pursue it, and then others that you just never hear of, but that we assume are having it, they just don't report it. Councilmember Shin?
At a previous meeting, you said that we filled all our patrol slots, but we still had some that needed to be accredited. Where do we stand on the number of officers in the field and the ones that are coming up?
Okay. As I said before, we have 38 positions, and they are all on paper filled. However, that does not mean that we are at full staffing or at mission. We currently have I've got all these notes. We've got 4 recruits in training at the academy. So their mission readiness, when they will be out on their own and be able to actually engage the community, is going to be November of this year. I have 2 officers in field training, and they are the ones that were certified. Hopefully they will hit the streets in July and be able to help us out. I've got two officers currently injured, one that is on their way out, and one that's on modified duty currently awaiting surgery. And then I've got 2 officers that are currently on military assignment but should be returning shortly. In fact, one of them came in today, so she had just returned from duty, and I think she'll return next week. We are running at about 50% in our investigations division. Patrol is running, so we have 16 officers on patrol out of 20. We also have one opening or one vacancy in the school resource officer, which will be filled with one of these officers who complete training in the coming year. And then, so that leaves us about 16 officers patrolling the city currently. And I threw in an average, just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at as compared to the national average as reported by the FBI on how many officers per 1,000 are assigned, and then how many our neighboring cities have. We're a little behind that, but we base our staffing decisions on call volume and not just arbitrary numbers. And just kind of giving you a heads up and priming the pump to let you know that we'll be looking possibly to add officers in the future.
Thank you, Chief. Council member, who's got their light on?
Me.
Councilmember Williams.
I just have one more question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
will you be hosting another Citizens Police Academy, and would you tell us how valuable those are as far as information?
Yes, I was planning at the end of this to let you know that this year we're hoping to reestablish our Citizens Police Academy. We've had to take a hiatus over the last 2 years due to COVID and out of an abundance of caution. So this Citizens Police Academy is invaluable as far as letting our citizens know exactly what our capabilities are, how hard that we're working for them, and give them an idea of what to look for as citizens out there and what kind of crimes to report or what reaches the level of reporting to the police.
Do you know when?
I can't give a date right now until I get everybody staffed up. But I'm hoping possibly September, October.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Holt.
Thanks, Chief, for being here. Rather than try to depend totally on our police department, what can we as individual citizens do? What about any assistance in getting helping the neighborhoods get neighborhood watch programs? Living across the street from the park, I'm acutely aware of the membership. We have about 600 members, I understand, in the soccer club. Can they get with their memberships and ask volunteers during the big events to have somebody be watchdogs up and down. I see the cars, I mean, it looks like the Razorback football game. So, but have somebody out there looking, I mean, when some, you know, I don't wanna get into any part of what should be done, but what kind of programs can the police department help the citizens regulate themselves and improve it? To what degree?
The easiest slogan that I'm gonna steal right now is see something, say something. So if you see something that seems out of character, out of the norm, call the police department. You can call us on the 911 line, you can call us on a non-emergency line, but call us when you see something that seems out of sorts. This is a partnership, and we do not take that for granted. We understand that we are a small contingent, and we rely upon our citizens on a daily basis, an hourly basis, on our ability to perform the duties that y'all have graced us with, so.
Great.
And we will, Captain Collins is our public information officer, and I've also tasked him with coordinating with any groups that want to start a community watch.
Right. I think that's a good idea. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, as a business owner with retail locations in Little Rock and North Little Rock for another 40 years, I can say that shoplifters were the bane of my existence. And it's like you were saying you had about 200 reports. I can tell you that's far away from what's as the actual number because you, as a business owner, you use a little discretion. There's some people you have to report because they will keep stealing until you do. Then there's other cases, I mean, it's bizarre as a grandmother teaching her grandchildren how to steal. I mean, it's just crazy out there. What I wanted to ask you is, out of those 200 cases, do you have any idea how much of those were repeat offenders?
I don't have that number. We don't have, in our current software system, don't have a way to track that.
Okay. And what would you say the police department's feeling is when you do get a call about shoplifting? That is something that you want to hear about, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we do respond. It's not a 45-minute wait. It's typically, as long as we have people available, you know, at max, we've got a 5-minute wait till we can get there.
Yeah. On
So
behalf of
call
all
us.
the business owners in my mail, I want to thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Thank you. Looks like that. Is there any additional questions or comments for Chief Pickard? Really quickly, Chief, I want to thank you. We talk about how your positions are full. Those are the positions, not the officers. Y'all have been doing a great job with patrol. I know the other day, as Chief of Police, you had a patrol shift where you were patrolling around. I know you guys have CID and other officers hopping in to help patrol. And really just a quick shout out to a lot of the stuff that you're doing that isn't the flashy stuff that ever makes headlines. A lot of it has to do with this reporting and the behind the scenes stuff. The ability to be able to track trends, and you and your staff have been doing a really good job upgrading those systems with some new software. So thank you guys for what you do. Now it's just up to us as the council to support y'all and help you. So thank you very much, Chief.
And one thing on the patrol shift, that was a lot of fun. It reminds me of what I'm doing, and it drives Captain Ivy nuts.
All the fun you forgot about in the office?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next up is, and really quickly, and thank you for the residents for reporting things and coming down here and sharing that with us. It is something that we take seriously and want to pride ourselves on here in Maumelle, so thank you. With that, department report. That isn't the police department report. Philip, come on down.
Well, I was hoping to thank Jennifer for the kind words, and probably going to owe her lunch for the good things she said
Wait,
about
could you
me.
say that so everyone can hear it?
What I've done is kind of gone from January till today to kind of what our department does. I think last time I was here was kind of during the summer months. And starting in January, starting this January, I'm happy to report that we have all 17 of our full-time positions filled right now. We just hired around 20 part-time staff, not all at once, but I mean, that's our recreation aides that man the community center on weekends and evenings.
we have that many just because they are mostly high school kids. So working around their schedules, that gives us enough to pick and choose from and get them some work there at the center. We just hired 56 seasonal staff, and that's for the pool. Same concept there is summer, they're out of school. Some of them want to work, really want to work at the beginning of the year, and then we kind of start losing them as the year progresses. So the way we look at our part-time and seasonal staff is we don't look at how many employees, we look at how many hours that we would need to man that. So those are big numbers, and big salary numbers once you add that many together, but that's what we need to be able to run those facilities when full-time staff's not there. Talking about January and February, youth basketball's in session at that time from first grade to fifth graders in the gym. That's when we have our outside staff maintaining our mowers, getting those ready for the spring when that hits. And then also our inside facility maintenance picks up for not only the community center, but our outdoor restrooms and concession stands, all those buildings that we have out in our parks. That's when we try to really concentrate and get everything fixed back up and ready for spring, because where we're at now is actually our busiest time of year. A lot of people think it's summer. Summer is due to the pool, but getting the outdoor sports facilities ready to go for their seasons, and like it's been doing lately, raining every other day, trying to keep our mowing schedule, because if we get a week of rain, then we're already way behind and trying to catch up. But luckily, with being fully staffed, hope that lasts for us, we can get caught back up and keep on top of all that. Park on the River is another one that we work inside the house, making sure it's ready to go for its season of rentals and weddings and those types of events. And same with our city vehicles. That's when we'll do a lot of preventative maintenance, and so we're ready to roll and have all our vehicles ready. And believe it or not, high school baseball starts practicing in January and playing their games starting in February. So we currently we house the Maumelle High School baseball team and the Maumelle Charter High School team. Same with softball. Both those schools are in the process. Charter School has already broke ground and are building a baseball field and a soccer field. They'll still need us for the softball field until I guess they continue to grow there. So we stay busy with getting those fields early, and then we work on the Little League fields and the soccer fields so they're ready to go in the spring. Soccer usually starts closer to March. March and April, we have our Easter egg hunt. This year, it was inside the gym, so it wasn't much of a hunt, and it was pretty much a pickup. The youth baseball, softball, soccer, they're all starting to play March and April. Weekend tournaments start up. And then we also start the hiring process for the pool, which I mentioned earlier. And then the pool, we actually started last week working on it, getting our pumps ready. We actually turned the water on and flushed some lines, and so we'll be ready. We'll be putting water in it probably tomorrow. We have right now they're at a lifeguards doing training. Our aquatic staff's getting trained up for the season. And the Maumelle, this is just some information that's going on right now. The Maumelle Baseball Association is purchasing and building a indoor batting cage. It's a 40 by 100 building that's going to be inside the Maumelle Baseball Complex. They're flipping the bill for that, and then once it's built, the city will take it over and we'll maintain it for them, but it'll be there, help their program grow and be able to practice during the winter months inside and hit. So that's a pretty good need and a want that they're handling, so we appreciate them for doing that. And I'm supposed to have two sets of drawings, updated drawings for the all-inclusive playground that we're scheduled to try to put outside or next to the splash pad. Speaking of the splash pad, I saw a lot of questions on when we're gonna open. We will open the splash pad on weekends, starting this next weekend. And then once school's out, it'll be open, full every day. And that's kind of wraps up what we do these first few months of the year. Like I said, I've kind of gone over, I think I've heard the spiel on the summer months. But if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer.
Just wanted to, the building that the association is going to build, how long did it take them to save up the money for that? It was years and years, is that
Yeah,
correct?
I don't know how long they started saving for it, but the ones that have lived here long enough, when baseball was actually at Rolling Oaks, they were talking about doing one there, and that was back in 94 when I first started working here, that they were talking about that. And it's come up and back, and I kind of, when they talk about it, I kind of, okay, and whatever. But no, it's actually, I guess it was 2 years ago they came back with it, and then now they're ready to go. And I think y'all start seeing that information on the next council packet.
They're to be commended for saving their pennies and dimes and whatever they've done over those years.
Yeah, and they also just bought a new overhang for the front of the concession stand that was weathered, and I came to the park when I saw it, and it was they've already replaced it once since 2002. So yeah, they take pride in their program and their facilities, just like soccer and softball too. All of them chip in when they want something. We usually let them throw some skin in the game and then help them out if we need to.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
With that, we'll move on to Planning Commission report. Councilmember Shin.
Well, the only thing that came up was the indoor batting cages. So I watched it online, and when I saw it was only 8 minutes long, I was concerned that we'd had technical difficulties. And then when I realized it was all the meeting there was, I was really thrilled, since I was doing it on the road. But that was it.
You chose well. All right, with that, we will move on to next order of business. At this time, I entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only.
So.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We will move on to unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is the third reading of Ordinance 1059, amending the Maumelle Land Use Plan. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1059, an ordinance updating the Maumelle Land Use Plan and map and for other purposes.
Thank you. You'll notice the shading that was out in the western portion of the map has been removed. If there is no discussion on this, I'd entertain a motion to adopt Ordinance 1059.
Motion to approve 1059, amending Maumelle Land Use Plan.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, just wanted to check on two items. One is, the maps got changed. It looks like the mysterious little circle is gone, and there's some definition there along the peninsula indicating the differences there. That land that on the, well, I'm kind of jumping ahead there. It's on the zoning map, but you can see it on the other one. It's floodway, and I'm assuming, is that owned by the city? That is owned by the city, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Are citizens welcome to hike there if they wanted to? Is it kind of like open space, city-owned open space?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And then another item of clarification. I get confused. The intersection there for where First Security Bank is, and then what used to be across Crystal Hill was, it looked like an auto salvage lot almost. And then there's another lot next to it. Now, the lot across from First Security Bank is is that in Maumelle?
Yes, sir.
That is in Maumelle?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
then
that's the lot before you get to where the antique cars are located.
Oh,
Yeah. So there's a lot before you get to the,
okay, so that area that's designated in the county is the car, where the
Yes.
cars used to be or
Yes.
are still? Okay. But right, that little thin area right along there is separate? I didn't realize that.
yes, sir.
Thank you very much. That's all I've got.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Holt,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin,
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams, Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 1059 passes. The next order of business is ordinance 1060, third reading of ordinance 1060, amending Maumelle zoning map. Madam City Clerk?
Waiting for my computer to catch up. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1060, an ordinance updating the Maumelle zoning map and for other purposes.
Motion to adopt ordinance 1060?
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley,
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams, Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 1060 passes. Next order of business is the third reading of ordinance 1061, amending Chapter 94 of the zoning regulations. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Okay. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1061, an ordinance amending multiple sections of the Maumelle City Code to change the method of notification of real property use changes and for other purposes.
All right, this is on third reading.
Motion to approve ordinance 1061? Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley,
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams, Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ordinance 1061 is adopted. With that, we will move on to the second reading of ordinance 1062, accepting dedication of streets and drainage. Madam City Clerk?
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1062, an ordinance accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets and drainage in a preliminary plat for the development known as Pinnacle Heights Subdivision upon the fulfillment of certain contingencies and for other purposes.
All right, this is on second reading. If there's no discussion, it'll be on third reading at the next council meeting. Okay, next order of business is ordinance 1063, accepting dedication of streets and drainage. Madam City Clerk?
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1063, an ordinance accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets and drainage in the preliminary plat for the development known as Osage Terrace Estates Phase D upon the fulfillment of certain contingencies and for other purposes.
If there's no discussion, this will be on third reading at the next meeting. All right, next order of business is ordinance 1064, accepting dedication of streets and drainage. Madam City Clerk?
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1064, an ordinance accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets and drainage in the preliminary plat for the development known as the Reserve at Country Club upon the fulfillment of certain contingencies and for other purposes.
All right, this will be on third reading at the next council meeting if there's no discussion. Next order of business is ordinance 1065, amending the code regarding civil service rules. Madam City Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1065, an ordinance amending the Maumelle City Code to conform to a Civil Service Commission rules and regulation and change for other purposes.
If there's no discussion, this will be on third reading at the next city council meeting. All right, and that concludes unfinished business. We'll move on to new business, and the first item of new business is our attorneys with the Arkansas Municipal League, Miss Jenna Adams and Bree Gibson. Y'all can come on down. You're the next contestant. And that'll give Clerk Timmons a moment to rest her voice after all those readings.
Good evening. How is everybody? So we are here to talk to you guys about, like you said, I'm Jenna Adams. This is Bree Gibson. We're attorneys with the Municipal League. We're here to talk to you guys tonight about a case that we've been handling since August 2018. It's Jennifer Corvo versus the City of Maumelle. It's currently set to go to trial the week of June 6th. And like most cases that are getting ready to go to trial, plaintiff's counsel has made another offer in this case. But I did want to first start off by saying that our discussion here tonight of this case is a discussion of settlement negotiations. So I want to make you aware that plaintiff's counsel is trying to use previous settlement negotiations that were discussed during city council meetings as evidence at this trial. So even though that we believe that our discussions here tonight and our previous discussions shouldn't be used as evidence at trial, the court may allow plaintiff to do that. So we're not going to be able to answer any substantive questions about the case. Or any questions about like the city's alleged liability. So if you have any substantive questions, we just ask that you contact us directly. Both Mayor Norris and Ms. Krebs have our contact information, and we would welcome you to contact us. So Ms. Corvo, I'm just give you a little update, a reminder, a refresher of what this case is about. Ms. Corvo is a former employee with the Public Works Department. She filed a lawsuit, like I said, in August 2018, and she was alleging that the City of Maumelle violated the Fair Labor Standards Act by failing to pay her overtime that she alleges that she worked. Prior to filing the lawsuit, Ms. Corvo filed a complaint with the Department of Labor, and they did an investigation regarding her allegations of unpaid overtime. The Department of Labor said that Ms. Corvo was entitled to $6,578.43. For overtime that she alleges that she worked and she wasn't compensated for. Although the city disagreed with that she had worked overtime that she wasn't paid, you guys had agreed to go ahead and issue the check to her. The city was also, to be fair, was not clear on how the Department of Labor even came to their conclusion that she was entitled to this money, but they agreed to pay it to her and they cut her a check. She ultimately returned the check to the city and instead chose to file this lawsuit. And she filed the lawsuit in August of 2018. On December 17th, 2018, the council voted to do an offer of judgment for $10,000, which plaintiff ultimately rejected. They made a counter offer on January 17th, 2019 of $25,000. The council discussed that counteroffer during their meeting on January 22nd of that year and chose to reject the offer. So after that, we litigated the case. We did written discovery. We took depositions. We filed a motion for summary judgment, all the things that you do in this type of case. And then the day after we filed our motion for summary judgment, the court actually held a settlement conference where both parties attend and a magistrate kind of goes back and forth. Our final offer at that settlement conference was $15,000, and plaintiff's offer was $35,000 plus attorney's fees. A few months later, in May of 2020, our summary judgment was denied. The court said that there were genuine issues of fact that must be presented to a jury, and that a jury has to decide the facts. So that's where we're headed now. The trial is that was in May 2020, the height of COVID. The trial got scheduled twice, got continued because of COVID, and now here we are going in June. So, like I said, plaintiff has made another offer, and their offer now is $33,000 plus attorney's fees. The way that FLSA cases work, you have to. Their offer of $33,000 is what we call a liability settlement, and we have to do the attorney's fees separately in these types of cases. So, let's say you accept $33,000 or you agree to pay her that, the plaintiff's attorneys would then file a petition into the court for their attorney's fees. We would get to respond to that, say, you're not entitled to that much for this reason, or there'd be some back and forth and argument in front of the court, and the court would ultimately would decide what would be a reasonable attorney's fee. So the $33,000 is all you guys would be deciding here today, and then we would deal with the attorney's fees portion later. We did find out from the opposing counsel that as of when did we get the offer? A couple weeks ago or a month ago, their attorney's fees were, they told us, less than $90,000. So that's just a ballpark figure of what we're looking at as to what that may be. I also want to make it clear that the municipal league, because this is an FLSA case, and the municipal league only provides defense-only coverage in this case. So in the event that you settle, or the event that we go to trial and there is a judgment entered against the city, that is entirely being paid by the city. The municipal league does not provide any coverage. We just pay for the attorneys and the cost of defense. So I will turn it over to Bree to tell you about the scenarios and what we're looking at for trial.
Okay, so we kind of came up with a few scenarios to give you guys. We want to make sure that you're fully informed of all of the risks at trial that we may encounter. So scenario one would be the best scenario. We win and we don't owe her a dime. The jury would find that Ms. Corriveau never worked any overtime for which she was not compensated, and that's the best scenario. Scenario two involves our offer of judgment. So if we lost, but by no more than $10,000, then because we made that offer of judgment for $10,000, then their attorney's fees would get cut off on the date that we made that offer of judgment. And so that offer of judgment was made like 4 months after the start of litigation, and so we hadn't even started discovery yet. So really and truly, their attorneys couldn't have done too much up to that point. We don't know how much they actually are claiming up to that point, but we estimate about $10,000, and that might be a little high. So with scenario two, it would be, let's say she was awarded less than $10,000, but then her attorneys also worked up to $10,000 in attorney's fees at that time. The total loss could be $20,000. Scenario three would be if we lost what the DOL says. So that would be rounding up $6,600. And if the jury finds that the city acted willfully, it's part of the statute of FLSA cases, then she could be entitled to liquidated damages. Liquidated damages are just double damages, essentially. So double of $6,600 would be the $13,200, so $13,200. Plus she would get attorney's fees. So the total loss, and also we should mention, if they find that it would be willful, then under the statute, she could also claim an additional year of unpaid overtime. As of right now, she can only go back 2 years, but if the jury finds, or, you know, if it's found that it is willful, then she can go back 3 years. So the total loss could be roughly $128,000. And then scenario 4.
Yeah, and so one thing about scenario 3, with the attorney's fees, we're taking into account they're claiming today that it's $90,000. We assume if we're going to trial, they're going to put in, you know, work in prepping and then being at the trial. We were over generous and rounded up to $25,000, so $90,000 plus $25,000, $115,000. We've seen some of these attorneys fee petitions before, so I don't think it's out of the question that they'll probably ask for something like that.
And these are estimates.
Yes,
I mean, we are
very rough estimates, and we're giving you worst case scenarios in each of these, or the higher end of what we think each of these scenarios might be. So scenario 4 would be she gets what she's asking for. So at trial, she has alleged that she's claiming that she's entitled to approximately $35,000 in unpaid overtime. So if a jury were to award her $35,000, her attorneys would then get the attorney's fees, which I just said would be the $90,000 plus the time spent at trial, $115,000. So you're looking at about $150,000 loss in scenario 4. And then scenario 5 would be what Bree was just talking about. It would be the same thing. She gets what she she gets what she's asking for, would be the $35,000. But if a jury finds that the city's conduct was willful, she gets double that, the liquidated damages. So it would be, and then she gets an extra year. So it's not the 2 years that she's claiming for unpaid, she gets 3 years. So that would potentially be $220,000 loss. Again, so anything can happen at trial. We just want to put our heads together and thought of kind of some scenarios. There are a lot of, there's the potential for substantial loss, and we wanted to make sure you guys were informed of that going into deciding whether or not to accept, reject, or make a counteroffer. But of course, there are also numerous factors that go into what might be the city's success or failure at trial. You know, no case is perfect. The evidence isn't perfect in this case for either side. Both sides will argue that certain evidence should come in or shouldn't come in, and ultimately that's up to the court. You've got the jury that's the one that's deciding everything. They're the ones that are going to decide if they like the witnesses or they like the attorneys or they like who they believe or they don't believe. And then, you know, you've got the factor that juries are just really unpredictable and you don't know what they're going to do. And settlement allows you to take control. So, with all of that being said, their offer is $33,000. Like I said, plus attorney's fees. We'd have to deal with that later. So you have to decide: do you want to accept that, reject it, make a counteroffer? What do we want to do? I'll leave it open it up for some discussion if you guys have any questions.
Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, I'd like to get the city attorney's thoughts on this.
I feel like Jenna and Bree did a great job of laying out all of the options for you. I can't comment too much on any of the facts of this case. I feel like their current demand is high. I'll just say that.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I was kind of going along Mr. Tierney's path there. What would you do? How would you vote if you were on the council? Can you say?
I'll just leave your mic on.
If that's a substantive
Caleb
question,
is also very familiar with this case, as it was filed prior to my actually becoming city attorney. So you might get his thoughts as well. we made the offer at 15,000 in our mediation. It's my recollection, and tell me if I'm wrong, that included attorney's fees. It was 15,000 all in.
I honestly can't recall.
I think it did.
I think it did.
Yeah. And I feel like our initial offer of judgment was fair. And I understand that they still would have been entitled to attorney's fees with what they had, the work they had done at that time. So, I mean, my initial thought would be to offer them $9,900, and then we can argue what the attorney's fees were prior to that time. I feel like it was a fair offer, and understanding that is going to include some attorney's fees, that we won't know exactly what they are, but would be a more limited amount.
So you're suggesting 9,000, what'd you say, $900 or whatever?
For liability, and then attorney's fees would have to be discussed separately.
All right. Yeah, as a council member here, I feel very uncomfortable about addressing something like this that we don't know the details of, and I'm not even sure I remember making a decision on this prior. I've been around since 2012, so it sounds like maybe we should have done something last time, but can you weigh in? What would you do if you were us?
Sure. It's all, I mean, really, this is risk management. It's trying to decide, do you want to take it to trial? And honestly, I think the first two scenarios we laid out would be wins, even though one's technically a loss. But if we get it under the offer of judgment, the $10,000, I think that would really be a win for the city because it cuts their attorney's fees off. But anything other than that, I think, is going to be a pretty big loss for the city. And so I try to, that weighs heavily on my mind. But the money that we're talking about even now is still going to be a good amount of money with attorney's fees. So I say either you risk it and go to trial, or you offer enough money that you know she would. So our last offer was 15,000. Their last offer was 35. They moved 2,000 below, and so my suggestion would be like 17,000 maybe, just to show some movement, and that we're in good faith trying to settle this, if that is the route that the city wants to go.
But would that include attorney's fees?
Would not include attorney's fees.
See, I think that's the issue. You're actually offering 90,000 more if you offer 17 liability only, because you're also paying all those attorney's fees.
Mm-hmm.
So they are saying there's 90,000 in attorney's fees at this point? That's what they're claiming?
They said less than 90,000, and I think it's probably likely that it's not going to be that high, because the way that petition for attorney's fees work is a judge will ultimately be the one that's deciding whether or not their petition is reasonable, whether or not the work that they're claiming they put in is reasonable, whether or not their hourly fees are reasonable. And I think it's, in most scenarios, they get cut some. So it's not likely to be 90,000.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, you want to weigh in?
Not really. Not really. Other than to point out that if I thought it was worth it, I'd be saying so. Councilmember Holt?
I remember when this came up the last time, and I remember the $15,000 offer, and that, as I recall, the response was that if we didn't accept that then, they were going to sue for more. I won't repeat don't think I should repeat what I said at that point, so I'll keep it to myself. Is this going to be in a federal court, state court?
It's in federal court. It's in federal court.
Federal court. We've been through this before in another case. So we're gonna go in and the present offer that's on the table, we will consider at that point, right? Or we're gonna have a full hearing first?
No, so this is really our last chance before trial. Trial's June 6th. So, unless y'all call a special meeting and we do back and forth with them a couple of times, like, we don't have much time before trial. We've got a month.
So we possibly can have a meeting then to discuss to go ahead and send an offer and not go to trial, or just say we're gonna go to trial.
Right.
I'm sorry, I was talking to the mayor. Did you?
It's okay. Well, is there a preference or a mood? I mean, this is fairly serious money. I mean, it's not funny anymore. Is there what is in the best interest of the city for it to be handled, or what process should we use? Madam City Attorney.
I mean, it's all a matter of looking at the risk with the facts that are in this case. And that includes plaintiff's credibility, that includes all the evidence that's been taken into consideration. If we had a crystal ball, you know, obviously we'd know what we ought to do. There's always some level of risk. It is a matter of determining whether you're going to take a risk for something that you feel like is the right outcome versus whether you want to try to limit potential liability. I think the scenarios we've received with the offer that we have now, if we took the offer, we're betting on pretty much the worst case scenario being what happens at the trial. So, you know, I would be very hesitant, of course, to bet that we're going to end up with the worst case scenario.
So do we think that this has been going on for quite a while. Do we feel like that we have, are we secure in our position in the case, or do we feel like that the jury, you know, that's just a figment of our imagination, that maybe we're not as strong as we think we are under these kind of conditions? Did I say that right?
I mean, I will say I think Caleb and I are pretty close to having similar opinions. Maybe we are both delusional. I mean, that's certainly possible. And it's always possible that, you know, she's awarded $11,000, which is, you know, $1,000 past our offer of judgment, and then subjects us to a lot of attorney's fees that we wouldn't have been had our offer of judgment been a little higher. That is possible. You know, the wage and hour division looked at it and gave a number that she was entitled to that was well under that $10,000 offer of judgment, and that's why we tried to put forth a reasonable offer at that time, we felt like. But I mean, can I give you any kind of guarantee what a jury is going to do? I can't.
Okay, all right.
Councilmember Gardner?
I was kind of hoping you wouldn't call on me next. I want to go back to scenario 2, Jennifer, if we could. When did we make the last offer of judgment? Was that in 18 or 19?
The offer of judgment was made in December of 2018.
Okay, and that's when we offered $10,000. Bree, thank you for that. That was when we offered $10,000 as an award and $10,000 of attorney's fees, correct?
No, so we
Okay.
made a $10,000 offer that's inclusive of attorney's fees and costs.
Oh, okay.
So when I said 10,000 as, I was just estimating 10,000 in attorney's fees at that point in time.
At that point, okay.
Really and truly, I think that that's even high for
Okay.
that point in time, because discovery hadn't happened. I mean, they filed a complaint, met with their client, I assume, emails back and forth with us a little bit, but I mean, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so basically, Bo, from what I understand is, by making that offer back then, that caps what we would have had to pay had they accepted it. It freezes it at that point, right? So if we were to go back and make a counteroffer, then the legal fees have grown, obviously, if they're talking back and forth over the last couple of years. Is that?
So as soon as they rejected that offer of judgment, it no longer is in play until we go to trial. The only time it ever comes back into play is when we go to trial, and if she gets less than 10,000, then they only get the amount of attorney's
Okay.
fees from that point in time. So that's why it would be a win, really, because they didn't have very many attorney's fees versus now.
So since we offered more than what the DOL said may have been a valid award, however they came up with it, I know we may dispute that. That was still a strong offer, I would think. If I was, I could have just taken that settlement and gone on gone on my business. And now they're asking for 35 plus attorney's fees.
33.
33 plus attorney's fees. Okay. I'm not, this is 4+ years old, and I'm not familiar with all obviously the evidence that's on either side, but it seems like I'm getting the impression that the city feels comfortable with where we are.
Okay, so if I may, I'm trying not to say a whole lot because I talked at the last, they both shake their heads, yes. I talked at the last meeting, and what I said is now at issue. I was the city attorney at the time the Department of Labor came up with that number. I spoke with folks there. I never got an understanding of how you just shout at me if I'm going off. I never got an understanding of how they came up with that number, and the impression that I got was it was the number that was most favorable to the plaintiff in this case. And that amount was $6,800.
Round up 6,600.
Yeah, 6,600. I thought that number was insanely high, and my opinion hasn't changed. It's not a perfect case. Every case has bumps. I think we have the more credible witnesses. I think we have the facts, the law, and righteousness on our side. It's a little bit cheesy, which actually makes me maybe not in the best position to make that assessment. But there are risks. Things can go wrong, rulings go wrong, someone testifies and it comes off more credibly. It is a risk. So I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more.
That's fair. So you're asking, their offer now is 33, and you're asking us to either accept or reject or come back with a counter?
Yes, sir.
Or not come back with anything?
Sure, you can do
Yeah,
that
you could
too.
just reject and that'd be that, and we'll let them know.
I do want to, if I may, explain how they're getting to the 33. So the 6,500 from the Department of Labor, her testimony was that she only told the Department of Labor that she was entitled to 1-hour lunch breaks, like that she was working through lunch for the certain period of time, and that's where they say that they came up with the 6,500. And she's filed the lawsuit claiming that it wasn't just my lunches, I also worked all these other hours before and after work, or early, late or whatever. And so that's why she's claiming more in the lawsuit versus what the Department of Labor said that she was entitled to. And she says that she did not tell that to the Department of Labor. So I don't know if that answers how we got to the 33,000.
And she says it was because she was trying to get promoted, so she did not tell them everything.
She was still, when she did the Department of Labor complaint, she was still working for the city. So she said she wanted to get promoted.
So being that it's, the trial is scheduled for what day?
June 6th.
Oh, June. I thought it was August. I thought we had more time. Okay. Anybody else?
I've got a bunch of lights here.
Okay, good.
Councilmember Shin.
One question. Who's her counsel?
Josh Sanford.
And Josh West.
No, he's not there anymore. Oh, the Sanford law firm.
My concern based on business history is sometimes you set a precedent. We sit here and go, okay, we're gonna pay, and we give her the 33, and we give them whatever the real number is. And 3 months from now, we get another lawsuit against us. And I've watched that happen in businesses. I've also seen it go the other way. That somebody gets slapped down and they don't get sued again. So, not without a solid case.
We're gonna have our own expense if we go to court, right?
If we have a judgment entered against us, we will have our own expenses, yes.
Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, one question and one observation. The question was, you said how she was hoping for a promotion. Did the lawsuit come after she learned she wasn't getting the promotion, or kind of curious about the timing of that? Basically, it sounds like she was trying to work on her lunch, then maybe didn't get a promotion, so then decided to sue the city. I'm just kind of curious about the timing of that.
So I think it was shortly after we tried to pay her the Department of Labor check. I think she was actually terminated. Not related at all. Like, the two incidents were not related at all.
Okay.
And then later that year is when she filed the lawsuit.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. You know, my thoughts on this is that here you've got a person who we tried to make negotiated settlements with before. You know, made fair, faith offers. She rejected them, jacked up her attorney's fee, and now wants the city to be the ones to bail her out. I really don't see any more point in really even trying to discuss anything more with her, make a counter, because she's rejected them in the past. There's no reason to think she wouldn't reject it again. I think we just pull off the Band-Aid and go to war.
Thank you. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, here's what I'd suggest and would like to do is just have the city attorney and the mayor get together and put their heads together and make their best recommendation or thought and proceed onward. And if you need our approval, we can do that at the next meeting or whatever. Is that a feasible option here? Can I make that motion? Any reason I can't?
I'm unaware of any reason you can't. I do think that, I think y'all are wanting the council to concretely say yes, no, maybe.
Well, our issue is time right now. So, the trial is scheduled for June 6th, and it's May, 2nd. So
We
have
have
to start
in
prepping.
the past, pardon, I didn't mean to cut you off. We have in the past made offers that we thought we would be able to bring to the council, and so it's contingent upon council approval. And sometimes we can work out numbers, and they'll say, well, okay, if you get council, and then we can call a special meeting if need be, or there's another meeting before the trial. But I'm sure all attorneys would prefer not to wait to the last minute. But did I further complicate your question?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
See, I'll make that motion that we let you and the city attorney come up with the offer, or what we should do, and then either if you need to have it approved by us, we'll do that. That would be my motion.
I still have a few lights on here. Do we want to wait for a second or hear some comments and keep the
Go ahead
motion
and get the comments, and that'd
Okay.
be fine.
Councilmember Mazzoni.
Yeah, I guess for me, it all goes back to sounds pretty similar, even goes to trial, except for that worst case scenario, the willful. Not being a lawyer or anything of that, there's legal standard for what willful is, because if there's no signed time cards, whatever, is there a standard that they'd have to prove, or how does that work? Because that seems to be the only part where there's a lot of significant risk for us, if that makes sense.
So, without getting into
Exactly.
too much detail or strategy, I think that we have good arguments against willfulness on the city's part. However, ultimately, it's not our decision. I think that we do have good arguments, but it's not a guarantee.
Now, for a jury for this one, is it civil, where it's a preponderance of it, or just straight up the majority of a jury?
You have to have a majority, yeah.
So just a majority.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if this answers your question, but willful, you have they would have to show that the city knew and had like a reckless disregard for their actions, that they knew their actions were.
That answers.
So it's a willful violation, and then a defense to that is that we made a good faith effort in attempting to not violate the FLSA.
Okay, that answers it. Thanks.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, sir. If I'm reading the room correctly, it sounds like everybody, we've made an offer before, years ago. So I will make was there a second to a previous motion? Okay, I'll make a motion to reject their current offer.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. I still have one comment card. Light on. Councilmember Holt?
Well, I was just going to say that while it would be good if the city attorney and the mayor came up with a suggestion and we followed it, I feel like that this falls on our shoulders. And it's not anything that I want to do or anybody else at this table wants to do. But I feel like we've got to look in the mirror at ourselves, and this is our responsibility to discuss it among ourselves, and then we vote and make the decision, trial or no trial. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I've got a motion and a second on the floor to reject the offer. Is there any additional discussion on that? Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, basically, I put myself in my shoes. If I had a lawyer, I'd say, I'm not, being thrown these facts just out of the blue, not really knowing the case. I just rely on my lawyer to tell me what to do. And that's exactly why I'm doing this. That's why I made that motion. I'll vote no on any specific action because I just don't feel comfortable voting for a specific action based on the facts that I know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional discussion on the motion to reject the offer? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. We did have pending motion from Councilmember Mosley. I just wanted to re-invite to the floor, which is a motion to have the city attorney and mayor discuss and maybe propose a counteroffer if, I believe that was a motion. Is there a second for that? All right, motion fails for. Pardon me?
Would there be any, because if we went a counteroffer, that would start the attorney's fees up to the point where we are right now.
We can make a counteroffer below the $10,000 amount. And for liability.
But for liability, so the attorney fees,
Would the attorney fees stop once they accept the offer, or if they reject it, the clock just keeps going?
No, so if you were to make a counteroffer tonight, the attorney's fees would be the attorney's fees that they have up until this point.
So the counteroffer, so at this point, we
There's-
couldn't make an offer that didn't include attorney's fees.
No, I'm saying the offer that we're making would only be for liability. But the amount of attorney's fees that we'll then have to pay later will be the amount that they have to today.
So what you're saying is that
So
the
like
offer
under
of ju-
90,000.
the offer of judgment isn't good if the offer is under 10,000. It's only if the judgment is under 10,000.
Right. Like, the offer of judgment only comes into play when we go to trial at this point. It's not in play right now. Because they've already rejected it.
So any counteroffers significantly wouldn't be much different than the worst case scenario, unless the willful. I mean, it'll be, when you add in the attorney fees for what they already put in, goes back to, won't be a significant difference unless willful, if I'm doing the math right.
So, if you were to say the offer that I suggested, 17,000 plus the attorney's fees that they've got today under 90,000, we're looking at like 107,000. So the third scenario was 128,000.
Okay.
So, and like I said, the first two scenarios, either we win or the offer of judgment and comes into play and it cuts their attorney's fees. She gets less than 10,000, so they only get the attorney's fees up to the first 4 months that they worked. So those two in my book would be a win. If you look at the next scenario, the next step up, you're looking at 128,000, which is more than what we're talking about with the offer that I suggested, or even the offer that Ms. Krebs suggested at 9,900.
Okay, so, is there any additional discussion? If not, did y'all have anything else?
No.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will. All right, we will move on to the next order of business. That's Civil Service Commission appointment. We have one applicant, Billy Harrington, who has sat through this entire meeting for his unopposed role. Mr. Harrington, why don't you come on down? We do have your email in the council packet, but
Thank you. Billy Harrington, 168 Hibiscus Drive. I tell you, when I stood, not in this room, because we've changed everything around, but 15 years ago, 3 mayors ago, and an entirely turned over council ago, and asked them to appoint me to Civil Service Commission the first time. Never did I dream 15 years later, I'm gonna be up here asking for another appointment. And I didn't set out trying to break any records, but if I'm not careful, I'm probably going to. But I've been on the commission for 15 years. For those of you who may not know so much about what we do, the bottom line is we work very closely with the city attorney and HR to make sure that all federal and state laws are strictly adhered to, and that all processes involving hiring, promotion, termination, unfortunately at times, and disciplinary matters are handled equally, fairly to everybody. It's normally not real complicated, but when you get appeals, it gets real heavy real fast. And I've had 3 of those since I've been on the commission. Fortunately, they don't happen all that often over here, which is probably a testament to having good chiefs in my mind. But when they do, they're very heavy because you've got somebody's career in your hands, and it's normally a young person. And if things go a certain way, they may not be able to just say, oh, I'll just go to another city and get the same job. It doesn't work that way. But we can fully uphold the findings of the chief. We can say, yeah, you were right, but this punishment was way too harsh, or we can not uphold the findings of the chief at all. So those are our three choices. We are not the final word, we're the last word in Maumelle, but our decisions can be appealed to circuit court. We just, a few months ago, finished with a termination hearing for a firefighter. And he was terminated, and we fully upheld those findings by the chief at that, the fire chief at that time. My understanding is he is going to appeal, but my understanding also is that normally what the judge does is pretty much go by. These are, we have court reporters, and they're, filmed and all that stuff. So I mean, there's a record there, and my understanding is the judges normally pretty much go by that. But I'll tell you, nothing in my life ever trained me to be a judge. And as the chairman, sitting up there in that middle seat, it's a tough spot because you have to preside as a judge. And I'm going to promise you, just about the time you get tired of hearing those lawyers yammer and yammer and yammer, and your attention drifts, somebody's going to object to something. Yeah. And you're going to go, oh man, what did they just object to? I mean, being a judge is hard, y'all. It really is. So that's the downside. The fun part of it is, and I mentioned this in my letter, the really cool part is just year after year we play a small oral interview role in the promotion process. And to see these young officers, whether they're police or fire, they come in the first time and they're trying to move from a 1 to a 2, and they're terrified. They act like they're in front of a firing squad when they're doing their orals with us. And then you watch them over time, and they keep coming through year after year, and they grow, or most of them grow. A few of them don't, but the vast majority of them do. That is a cool thing to watch. And I tell you, you really ought to be proud of the men and women you have on police and fire departments in this city. We are very fortunate to have them. It has gotten extremely difficult to recruit new policemen because of the changing nature of the world. Fortunately, it looks like the chief is keeping us as close to fully staffed as he can. But when you bring someone in who does not have their license, they got to go off to the academy. So just because you hire somebody, it's going to be months before you got an extra set of boots on the ground. So it has gotten very hard, and my understanding is that it has progressively gotten hard for the fire departments too. But I feel real good about our departments. It's been something I've had minute, small part in, and I feel good about that. I never wanted to be the chairman, but I have been for the last 6 years because our other chairman moved. I was a secretary for 6 years before that. Perfectly happy sitting over there in that side spot and not that center spot. But for y'all, those of y'all who knew Bo Peterson, Bo was on the commission with me at the time, and we were both the most tenured members, and I knew what he was going to do. He couldn't nominate me fast enough that night because he wanted no part of it. So that middle chair is a little learning process. It's a little different sitting there and having to preside over things. But I've talked too long. I just wanted to ask y'all for the privilege and honor to be reappointed. And we've had a good bit of turnover in the last few years, but I think everybody's there's a learning curve on this like everything. I think everybody's sort of rounding into having a pretty darn good commission. So I'll shut up.
Councilmember Gardner.
Mr. Harrington, thank you for your service. I know you've done it a long time, and it's something to be said for having that experience on the commission, so thank you. So I'll make a motion to approve Mr. Harrington's new term on the Civil Service Commission.
We've got a motion second. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, on that prior issue there, I did not feel comfortable making a decision without having some expert legal advice and telling me what to do, or strongly advising me, but in your case, I sure don't need that. So
Thank you, sir.
I wish you well in your next term. Thank you.
I hope I live long enough to serve it.
All right, we've got a motion and second to appoint Billy Harrington back to the Civil Service Commission. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Harrington.
A glutton
I think
for
you do a
punishment.
great job as chairman, and it's nice to have folks that are newish with new blood, and then some that have just been there for a long time.
You know, the last time we had to fill positions, we had to do 2 at once, and it scared me to death, because getting 2 good people can be really hard. Well, we wound up having 4 apply, so we got 2 super good people. But you know, normally we rotate off one a year, you know, so things are staggered, and you're not bringing in more than 1 new person at a time. But we managed to get away with it that time. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. The next order of business is the elected officials salary task force presentation. Mr. Jeff Van Patten, come on down. Thank you for your patience in sitting here. Really quickly, I just wanted to point out the memo that I put in the council packet, and this is just for the record, anyone watching at home. Maumelle City Code requires that the city establish a committee in the month of January on every even-numbered year to consider the compensation of elected officials. That committee is charged with analyzing the compensation of elected officials and then making a recommendation to the city council no later than the first regular meeting in May. And so the committee has stood up. The list of the members are in the memo in the council packet, if anyone wants to see that, and this is that recommendation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, after all that excitement for the whole meeting tonight, I think what I'm about to talk to you about will be rather boring. But I'm glad to be here, and it is indeed a pleasure and a privilege to chair this committee again, and I always look forward to it, and I look forward to the people I get to serve with. So on our task force committee this year, beside myself was Michelle Elliott, Eric Jones, Justin Simpson, Patty Robinson, also council members R.J. Mazzoni and Doug Shin. We had a great committee. We not only looked at our tasks, we focused on identifying what our peer cities were. That is in your presentation. We considered our peer cities this cycle: Paragould, Cabot, Bella Vista, Sherwood, Bryant, Van Buren, Searcy, Jacksonville, Centerton, Russellville, El Dorado, and Salem Springs. In doing that, we looked at not only population, but also trying to get a feel for the nature of the city. Was it growing or not? And also, we took into account sales tax collections, which for each of these cities, which RJ, I think you were always digging into that in our committee meetings, as I recall, and getting us information on the fly and what have you. But because we really, as we make these recommendations, we wanted to be able to compare, you know, where Maumelle was in sales tax collections, and we're not the lowest in the peer cities, but I guess there's always room for improvement, always room for be looking for the future, you know, to improve our sales tax collections. But with that, I'd like to get into our recommendations, and first of all recommended Maumelle elected official salaries in our group here tonight are in the top 5 of the peer city groups. So I know the city council is probably mad at me because our committee did not come up with a raise for the council. I've already had that expressed to me by at least one person. But even with no raise, we're the council and any other group is at a minimum we're in the top 5 of our peer cities. So in no particular order here, the committee recommended that the mayor's position, and let me back up. 6 years ago, if I may, I had the privilege to serve on my first committee. I've done this 3 or 4 times, but with an alderman named Jamie Stell. And Jamie always led off with a speech, which I have repeated 3 times now. And I call it the Jamie Still speech. I just repeat it. But Jamie made a point of letting our committee know that our goal was to come up with a salary recommendation for the position. As much as we respected and loved everybody that already holds these positions within our city, our goal is no matter who filled that position, if somebody could leave at any time, or whatever. And so our recommendations here for each of these positions is for the position, not for the person, despite our feelings of goodwill for all those wonderful people serving these positions. So having said that, our recommendation for the mayor's position salary was for a 3% increase to put the salary at $102,691 per year for the next 2 years. This salary is within the top 5 of the peer group of cities. Next, for the Maumelle City Clerk position, the recommendation was for a 6% increase to put the salary to $67,473 per year for the next 2 years. The salary then will be within the top 3 of the peer group of cities. The Maumelle City Attorney salary position was recommended for an 8% increase to put the salary to $105,002 per year for the next 2 years. The salary after this will be within the top 3 of the peer group of cities. Maumelle City Council position salary was recommended for no increase to keep the salary at $7,500 per year for the next 2 years. Even with no increase, the salary is within the top 5 of the peer group of cities that I just mentioned. So, Mayor and the council, that is our recommendation, or is our committee's recommendation to you tonight. And do I have any questions?
Councilmember Gardner?
Mr. Van Patten, thank you for all of this. It was a pleasure to serve 2 years ago, and I agree with your speech. It's for the position and not the person. This is really just a curiosity. What did y'all see from a trend from other cities, how they have increased over the last couple of years? I know we've kind of basically held our ground as far as elected official salaries, but were you seeing other cities over the last couple of years through the pandemic make the same adjustments over the years?
And Doug and RJ jump in here, but I saw that, well, Bryant, I felt like Bryant was very aggressive, but Bryant's sales tax collections are
a lot more than ours.
A lot more than ours. Yeah. I mean, we had Bryant's sales tax collections are at $18,431,000, and we are at $6,829,000 for 2021. So, a little more than double. So 2.5 times, whatever. But I felt like Bryant was very aggressive on their salary raises or what have you. I felt like, and RJ and Doug, you agree or disagree, but I felt like our salaries are very fair. And conversely, I felt like that as we went through this process, we were also thinking about the raises for the other city employees in Maumelle. We weren't just, that it was all kind of looking at this collectively, not just for these elected positions we're talking about now, but we were thinking about, what has just transpired in the last 2 years and what will transpire in the next 2 years. And so we were trying to make it as fair as possible for the positions.
Okay.
But I think, the idea is you strive for fairness. It's not going to be perfect. But I've personally, I've always hoped that all our salaries in Maumelle would be on the upper end, because I want people to want to apply for these jobs, no matter what they be, and especially, if they're elected officials or if they're policemen or firemen, because we depend on all these people. So I want people to, to want to apply for these positions, because it's a very, very, it's a very good salary, and because we need all these people.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for your community involvement for many, many years and all the things you do for the council by doing this sort of thing.
It's my pleasure.
Mr. Van Patten's one of those, when he calls on the phone and has a position on an issue, I always listen very intently because he always has excellent reasoning, and I appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there any additional questions regarding the task force's recommendations? Mr. Patton, thank you very much for your patience, and hopefully you enjoyed the council meeting up to this point, as much as we have. All right, the next order of business is the first reading of Ordinance 1066, amending a compensation schedule. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Yes, I jumped a little bit there. Get it?
Well, she's pulling that up. Just a reminder, a few years back, the city council passed an ordinance that says that the recommendations from the task force shall be submitted to the city council in the form of ordinances. So the next couple ordinances are those recommendations from the task force. The council is free to do with it as it wishes. There was not an ordinance for city council salaries. Because of the recommendation, but if there was a desire to add one, the council could also do that as it chooses. Madam City Clerk?
My apologies. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1066, an ordinance amending the compensation schedule for the elected position of mayor of the City of Maumelle and for other purposes.
All right, this is on first reading. Is there any discussion on that ordinance? If not, it'll be on second reading at the next city council meeting. All right, the next order of business is Ordinance 1067, amending a compensation schedule. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1067, an ordinance amending the compensation schedule for the elected position of the City Clerk Treasurer of the City of Maumelle.
All right, is there any discussion on Ordinance 1067? Seeing none, it'll be on second reading at the next council meeting. Next order of business is Ordinance 1068, amending a compensation schedule. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1068, an ordinance amending the compensation schedule for the elected position of City Attorney of the City of Maumelle and for other purposes.
Is there any discussion on this ordinance? Seeing none, it'll be on second reading at the next city council meeting. Next order of business is Resolution 2022-22, amending the 2022 general fund budget. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2022-22, a resolution amending the general fund budget.
All right, thank you very much. So this resolution was is brought to you. Y'all may recall we switched IT packages a while back. We brought in a new IT company that has been really investigating, and not just a company, but we broadened the scope of services pretty severely. One of the things they've been doing is looking pretty intensely at our current server infrastructure for not only operability issues, but also security-related threats. What we have is and their recommendations were twofold that needed to be handled urgently. That was the addition of a new server that is designed to, and Tina's really been working hard on this, so please jump in, but that is designed to consolidate some of the older servers and get rid of them. And
I'll give a brief overview. What we had been doing for the longest time because of budget constraints, we have been trying to save money, if you will, and we're at the point now to where we can't replace a drive, we can't replace, hardware. We need to replace the actual servers. What we need to do. A lot of the things that were found were redundancies. So what we're going to be able to do moving forward with you all's approval is get rid of, we have, I want to say maybe 18 servers, and they're not all working. We have what had been going on in the past. We were afraid to let things go. So we had been saving information so we can go back and, refer to it. Well, we have done a thorough audit of all of the software housed on our servers to find out what's obsolete. And so that's where we're at. We're getting rid of software that we're no longer using. We're getting rid of servers that aren't, that can be consolidated into one. As you know, these servers are not only housed at City Hall, but we have other locations. We have our police department, which we want to keep safe. We are upgrading the services at Public Works and Animal Services per lots of requests. So this is the start of moving forward. In the past, my asks have been really small because I've been conscientious of our dollar amount, but we're at the point to where we need to spend the money so we can be safe and prepared for the future.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, were we aware of all this at budget time last year?
Yes, I've been aware of it, but what happens is you have to keep in mind we were going through COVID. We were at a point to where we had a budget freeze. Each time I've asked for money, I've only asked for small amounts to try to be cognizant of not asking for, I could use a couple $100,000, but I knew that was unrealistic. So what we have been doing is enough to where we weren't exposed to possibly getting hacked, if you will, but it was just enough to get by. This plan, now that we have this audit in place, will effectively prepare us for the future. And that's pretty much it. We just have a lot of things that had been going on because that's the way they always had been. And we're at the point to where we have found better, more efficient ways opposed to the way they have been because things have changed, our needs have changed. State statutes have required different softwares. Our court system, they need special softwares. Our PD, our finance, we need certain securities added. And all of this stuff came to play within the last few years. Technology has really taken a turn. What we're doing, my primary goal, and I think it's collective here at the city, is to be as cloud-based as we can because that seems to be the safest route as far as having backup to our information.
I knew that we had aging server infrastructure. I did not realize the extent of that until the thorough audit that was conducted with our current IT service providers who came in. And one of the differences with our current package that we we used to have a bare bones IT package.
Less
and
than
so
$60,000.
as we broaden the scope of those services, one of the things that we advocated for and we wanted as part of that broader scope of services was more advisory issues. So it felt like we were running around and putting out the fires all the time, and that kind of ate up the entire IT package. We wanted to switch to something that was more comprehensive and proactive, and was able to start spotting weaknesses before failures. And they came back with their report. We just had a meeting with them a couple weeks ago, in which they spoke in the voice of thunder with regards to this. This doesn't, I will correct one thing, this does not set us right for IT. This stops the next building from crumbling, the next thing from falling apart. There'll need to be additional assessments. The goal of getting the server now, and the IT folks think that maybe we could wait. The problem is what they'd like to do is get that server and start consolidating and shutting down some of the other servers, but we don't have a server that they can consolidate those onto, right? And so we have, as Tina was saying, we have a number of servers that we moved the processes from that server, but then left that server online, and it's still a core component. So we've got software. Hopefully there's no hackers listening. We've got some really, we've got some old software packages that need to be taken offline, but we don't know what is going to happen when we do that unless we can sort of back up all that data on a fresher, newer machine. So this actually, and also this resolution had two things. One was the server, and then one was a subscription service. Some of the other servers that we're not even getting to with this have, they're out of warranty, they're out of, it's hard to get parts, especially right now. So the subscription service is similar to a warranty. When you get that warranty, that the company ensures that those components that might fail are kept on hand and can be delivered to us within a day, as opposed to having something fail and then ordering it and going through that list. So the real value there is the part availability on the servers that we're not replacing yet. So there's a long answer to your question.
It's pretty, I don't want to say complicated, but we have just been replacing here and there, and we can no longer just buy parts. We need to actually buy the server, get rid of what we're not using, and that's it. And there's a lot of departments, and they break ground for, well, that's another.
My concern when I saw this is that it sounded like something, a normal budget type project and that sort of thing, and I've always been opposed to doing mid-year budget things on the general fund. I know we've got all this ARPA money, and I wasn't opposed to the two projects involving the truck and the other project going down Club Manor, because these were something that's been in the mix and something that was been talked about for this COVID money. So I'm for that. Are there other things? Are we going to be having other resolutions for other projects here, or is this kind of the last one for a while?
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
You're going to have more?
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering if maybe we should just get a list of these projects and kind of almost like have a mini budget meeting and see what we're doing here, as opposed to addressing them piecemeal every meeting or something.
Sure. So the process that I'm going through, and we could do it however, process I'm going through as soon as we have a project that looks tenable, that fits, then I bring it to the council, right?
Of the ARPA money?
For the ARPA funds, yes.
Okay.
And so we've talked about a few things. There's a few other things that we're looking at. A lot of times, it takes time to even see if it's a feasible project, right? Like, it takes time to determine whether or not, you may have an idea and you just ask an engineer, what does this cost? And they're like, well, let me think about it. I'm like, well, do it for free. I'm not gonna, I don't have money to pay for it. Just conceptually, how does that work? And then they come back and say, oh yeah, we can make this happen. It's $4 million. And that just drops right off the list, since we don't have that. So this is the only, I don't have any that I know that I'm bringing at this point. I've got a number of things that are in the hopper, that we're looking into, but nothing that I know or believe confidently will.
Yeah, my concern is if maybe somebody's got an idea on some project, maybe they ought to throw it out and just throw it in there for consideration. If it appears that there's a goal not to long-term save this money, it's to go ahead and spend it, is that kind of the thing within a certain period of time?
So the goal has been to act in accordance with the intent of my personal goal has been to act in accordance with the intent of what the ARPA funds were designed for. Those were designed for many things, but where I've been aiming at are those sorts of things that would better prepare Maumelle if another similar event were to occur. And trying to focus that money in areas that the capital influx of money that we've had is the bulk of the cost, right? So something that you got a capital expense on but had long and high operating costs might not be, in my opinion, the best use of the COVID money. But if we could use the COVID money to make the improvements that fit that theme, then that's what I've been aiming for and promoting. Madam City Attorney?
Just if I could, just one thing that I think speaks to what you're talking about. One of the issues we've had is we have been struggling to try to get it where we can take credit card payments in court. And some of these issues that we have are causing us to not be able to do that through the normal ways that we would because of issues with security and concerns that could cause damage to our systems if we were using that. A week or two ago, I walked into Caleb and said, well, we lost $3,000 today because we don't take credit cards. Because there were people there who wanted to pay that way, and there are people who want to pay online, and especially if you're trying to keep people from coming into an in-person environment and paying, and you want them to be able to pay remotely, you've got to be prepared to do that. So, I mean, these are things that, it affects our revenue, eventually. So, I mean, I think it goes right along with that, being prepared for these types of scenarios.
It sounds like a reasonable project. I'm just trying to get a handle on what the big picture is, whether, should we sit down and look at a list of stuff and say, let's do these or whatever, so just almost like a budget process, since it's available money that apparently we should be trying to spend within a couple of years. Something like that, mainly on capital improvements or something that's not a recurring cost, like a new swimming pool or something like that. So, an existing pool like we've got now outside. So,
Well, Mayor, if I may, I fully intend to bring you guys a comprehensive report this budget year, and I'll just, take the lumps. If you're going to either approve the money or you're not. You did approve for one server since I've been in office, but this particular year I am going to ask for everything that we need, and we'll see how it goes, but it's kind of, I work with what you guys give me.
I'd be interested.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Williams?
Motion to adopt Resolution 2022-22.
It's not easy, is it?
It is not.
I've got a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-22.
Seconded.
A motion is second. I do have some more comments. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, I agree with Mr. Mosley that I definitely would like to see a list of, everything we'd like to do rather than do things like this piecemeal. Throughout the year, I'd like to kind of get a little midsummer budget going. I also agree with what the city attorney has said about how you're losing money if you're not up to date on how to, take in payments. I know trying to do my business license online, I just write a check. I just got tired of trying to fight it to try to take my credit card. The importance of Ms. Timmons' department is, can't be understated because, it's the backbone of the operations of the city. And if it goes down, there's an old phrase of a stitch in time saves nine. and you don't want to have to try to repair it retroactively. It's, you want to keep it up and keep it going. I do have two questions, though. How does this cost split out as far as the server cost and the warranty cost?
The warranties are roughly about $13,000, and then the remainder is for the hardware itself. The warranty is basically additional insurance for us to have while we go through this transition.
And what was the server amount again?
30, well, that's the total.
Subtracting 13 from 51.
Yeah, so that would make it 25.
What he said.
Thank you.
And it's actually not as ominous as it sounds, because we're going to get rid of the redundancy. And it's out of order, Mayor, but I am excited to let the council know that they will be breaking grounds to get that fiber out for Public Works on May 11th. So I did that. What you guys have asked, I have.
We're gonna have groundbreaking?
It's up to the mayor.
No.
I know.
The server was a little bit less. I think I rounded up the equipment cost 5%. It was either 5 or 10%. I've learned my lessons. A quote today that isn't approved for 30 days in today's market could be a 5 to 10% cost increase. Councilmember Gardner?
I would agree that we need to upgrade our equipment. I think my one question was, we've grown as a city where we try to do everything ourselves, and now I like the step that we're taking where we don't have IT professionals on staff, no offense. Because I know she recognizes that. Yeah, and so my question on this was this a recommendation of the company that we are contracted with?
Mm-hmm.
It is a small snippet of the recommendation.
So that's what I'm asking. This is part of a bigger picture where we have IT professionals telling us this is our recommendation of what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I facilitate. I don't profess to be an IT specialist.
Councilmember Mazzoni?
Yeah, just change a little bit on this, but going back to, we already approved for the engineering on the food truck and looking at the mile. When are we gonna, any estimate on a timeline when we're gonna find out how much it's gonna have to cost to make those happen? Because that'll probably all come out of this pot as
Correct,
well.
yes. So we are expecting a proposal from the planners this week. It might be in my email today. I haven't seen it. That proposal is not the construction cost. That is the proposal for the planning process. The goal is to have a couple public meetings on that, but I think that can be a very quick moving process. My wish would be that we could have shovels in ground knocking down a building this fall, which I feel foolish saying that, but I think it's possible. But we won't really know until you get the public meetings, and like we've talked about food truck park and farmers market pavilion. Other folks have mentioned things like a gazebo or a place for music. A lot of it will depend on what the outcome of the public process is. Soon. Hopefully. Any additional discussion on resolution 2022-22? If not, all those in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. The last official item of business on the agenda is the first reading of Ordinance 1069, Pinnacle Towing and Recovery to do business with the city. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1069, an ordinance permitting city employee Patrick McIntyre to conduct business with the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, and prescribing the extent of his authority.
Thank you. So under state law, for a municipal employee to be interested in the profits of a contract with the city, it has to be approved by City Council. Currently, the city has a tow rotation list, and this is effectively if the police are towing a vehicle because it's been involved in a wreck, they don't sit there and wait for I mean, they'll ask the person, do you have a tow company that you want to use, or do you want us to call ours? And ours is a list of tow companies that have gone through the process. The city clerk oversees that. We have numerous companies that are already on the list. One of the city's firefighters is wanting to purchase an ownership stake in that company, that tow company. And so now the question is, as an employee with an ownership stake in that company, do we have to just stop calling that specific wrecking company, or can we continue to put them on the list? That's contingent upon this here. I'd be happy to answer any questions. City attorney can explain more.
One thing I wanted to say is I saw that I left a typo in on section 1. It says East End Towing. It's actually going to be Pinnacle Towing and Recovery. This is sort of a family business, and they own several different towing companies, and there was some confusion initially as to which one was making the purchase. But that's all I wanted to add at this point, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Should we, can we just change that as Scrivener's error, or do we need to make a motion and amend that?
I think we can just, because it is correct in the whereases, I think I can just change that for the next time as a, typo.
Thank you. Councilmember Gardner?
Just one question. If anybody has a towing company, can they go through a process to get on our list? So it's open to anyone with a legitimate towing company that can get on our rotation list? Right.
We have very specific parameters that, as far as the mileage within the city, it's quite specific. But annually, we put out RFQs, and then we get submissions from companies who are interested to be on our rotation. This particular tow company lost their patriarch, so there was a death, and so that's why the changing of the guards.
Okay. But if a legitimate company that meets our qualifications, they can get put on the list. All right.
I get inquiries all year, and the ones who submitted, they are currently on our rotation list. They work directly with PD.
Councilmember Mosley?
Okay, our Lieutenant McIntyre does not currently own an interest in this, and he's thinking about buying it. Is that buying an interest in the company?
Correct. He doesn't own an interest in Eckes right now, but he does own an interest in several other towing companies.
Oh, he does own interest in Pinnacle, which would be the acquiring company.
Correct. Yes, he and along with some family members, it's my understanding, own interest in. He owns owns an interest in Pinnacle Towing, doing business as Ralph Recker, and then also East End Towing. And there may be others. I'm not sure the limits of what all they own.
Do we know what, to me, a lot of this involves, like if somebody owns stock in AT&T and we're considering AT&T or something like that, that would be on the end where you'd go, yeah, sure, that's fine. But if this is something where the person is a major player in this, if they own,
so they're privately held, and so there are, within the state statute, there are exceptions if you are a stockholder in a publicly held company, right?
Uh-huh.
So, but these are not. So,
okay, it's not a corporation then.
Well, I'm not sure what their corporate structure is, but they're not public.
Right. Do we know what percentage of the stock he owns? Does he reveal that?
He is, first of all, he is working tonight. He let me know that he'd be happy to take off work, and we said, no, please stay there. We'll have 2 other readings. He'll be here at both of the other readings if there are more specific questions.
Okay, he's working as a fireman tonight?
Yes, as a firefighter.
Okay.
And we obviously didn't want him to come down while on the clock, because that would be...
Do we know if he actually operates a tow truck? Does he do that when he's not doing a fireman?
He'll be here. My understanding is he does.
Okay.
My understanding is he works as a firefighter on firefighter days, and then he helps run wrecking service on the other days.
All right.
But that's my understanding.
Okay. I mean, we've got 3 readings here, so that's fine. I will be looking at this very hard because I do not believe in alderman having an interest in that sort of thing. I had to vote against Mrs. Timmons back when she was operating the park on the river, and it would be, I want to be consistent in this. So if I vote against one, I'll vote against all of them, but I will consider all the aspects of this thing here.
Thank you, Councilmember Mosley. The one difference that, in my mind, for me personally, makes this a no-brainer is that this is a contract open to many different, there's many different companies, and they're just put on a rotation. So it's not as though special services would be thrown out, or we've made a backdoor deal where you get to be one of the people that you'd be able to almost apply for and get that process anyways. But we'll have a chance to talk to Lieutenant McIntyre.
If I may, Mayor, I'm not sure how much this weighs. It's not a huge moneymaker. I mean, it's not like it's going to set, it's just a service that's provided to our citizens. It's not a high income generating type of business, so.
I understand. I would say that the residents a lot of times look unfavorably, even if they don't know all the details. We had an alderman years ago that operated. He did services installation of phone work, and he had a contract to do that. He solicited a contract with the city to do that, and they approved it, and they did one of these ordinances, and the residents of the community, there was just this constant undercurrent about it, about all this stuff. So I just want to make that aware of that. Thank you.
Councilmember Gardner?
If there's a list of approved vendors and there's 10 of them, do they go 1 through 10? When they hit 10, they go back to the top and go back to 1 again? Is that the process? Or what? I'm sorry.
That's my understanding. Is it's just on a pure rotation, Chief? The question was the tow rotation. If there were, say, 10 companies on that tow rotation, how they go through that list? Is it just tow company 1 on day 1, tow company 2 on day 2?
I think they rotate a week at a time, but
Okay.
they do go on a rotation. When it gets to the last one, they start over again.
Thank you.
You got a follow-up on that?
Yes, sir.
Is it only the police department that calls for a tow service, or does the fire department?
Don't know of an instance the fire department has ever called for a tow
Okay,
truck.
so you all do handle that function?
Chief
Yes, sir.
Eaton, come on down. No, they do not call for the fire. Well, and the fire department and police department call dispatch, and dispatch calls. And they've just got up on the board whoever the listing entity is.
All right, thank you.
Correct.
And just there, it is written into the ordinance as one of the terms and conditions. There's, always supposed to be terms and conditions with these types of ordinances, that Lieutenant McIntyre will not try to influence the call rotation in any way, and he understands that that would not be appropriate.
Okay.
All right, any additional discussion on ordinance 1069? Are you sure? All right, we will move on to mayor's comments. I do have a couple things I just want to hit really quickly. Comcast status, just an update. Those permits that were previously issued, work continues under those permits. We are still holding new permits from Comcast as we deal with those, as we look at numerous issues, including the application process, but also the specific pedestals that are put in place. Councilmember Shinn.
There are 6 current permits, is that correct?
Not a clue.
Active.
How many, Mr. Grummer, do you know how many active excavation permits there are? Pop quiz. If you could come to the mic, please, sir.
Actually, I could look it up, and I can tell you I'm sorry, I was looking something else up when you asked me. How many active,
Comcast.
To my recollection, that have been approved already or not approved?
Yes, already approved.
Already approved, I believe, probably about 3. I would say roughly.
We think, we
Could
could,
be close.
he
Yeah,
can get you
it-
the precise numbers if you like.
There's a lot of activity, and we've been cleaning that up, and some of the activity, but of the major applications that we have, contracts, it's about 3 to 4.
Thank you, sir. The next thing I wanted to mention really quickly is Platte Cove. That was brought up by a young resident, and we told him we'd get back in touch with them. Platte Cove, CAW has a little more repair work to do. Once that's complete, and Mr. Hogan was out looking at it today, it hasn't yet been complete. Once that repair work is done, we can do a little bit to improve that cul-de-sac, but it is one of our lost roads. It is tied for the lowest road in the city. We were hoping to have the 2019 audit book for y'all in the next couple days. What we currently plan, we've given it all to the auditors now, but they have a redundancy check, so we won't be able to get their work done, and then they pass it to somebody else who kind of comes in and checks. We won't be able to have that done, but we should be able to get that book to you at the next council meeting. That will mean that the audit will hopefully be presented at the following meeting. So we won't give the audit and then the audit report in the same meeting. If you haven't taken a look on Facebook and YouTube, Sydney did a great video on recycling. If you've ever wanted to know what happens when you put the stuff in the blue bin, what happens, take a look at the video. And with that, are there any council member comments?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Everybody back off. I think we all got an email from Grayson Moore Free. She's Neil Moore's daughter, and she I have a vested interest in this young lady, and she detailed how she would like to become a peer recovery specialist here in Maumelle and help other people who are struggling with addictions and different types of things, avail her services as far as resources and things like that, and make her services known to Judge Bailey and the courts. And she gives a outline of what that would look like. And I would appreciate it, fellow council members, if y'all would take a look at her email, and I think she wants to come talk to us and tell us what her plans are and what her vision is for this type of position. And I think she is right now applying for several grants that would help her get this show on the road. She is not only was she a resident of mine at City of Faith, but she has become a dear, dear friend, and I want to support her in all of her efforts. I think she has earned it, and she's done a very good job. Watching her grow and become what she is now has been most gratifying and just a real blessing to me. So please take a look at that.
Thank you. Any additional council member comments? City attorney comments?
No comments.
City clerk comments?
Yes, I do. I just want to clear up quickly. We can take credit card payments for the courts. We just don't have a credit card machine that's attached to our server. So you do have the option of paying with a credit card. You just have to do it online. We don't have an actual machine connected to our server for security reasons. So I just wanted to let you know, we do have that option. It's just a different avenue. That's all.
Thank you very much. If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. I got a motion and a second. Would we like to discuss that? All right. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you all very much.